Hey everybody, this is Betsy Veldman for Papertrey Inc. and I am here today to show you all about my latest Make It Market mini kit called Sunshine and Rainbows. So the Sunshine and Rainbows mini kit comes with a collection of dies. There are some fun shapes as well as a couple of word dies, sunshine and rainbow. And there is also a little optional S so that you can add that to the end of rainbow to make rainbows. And there's also a little and, so you can create the sentiment sunshine and rainbows. And then there is a little bird and a die to coordinate with the music notes. This one coordinates with the bird. There's a little swing that can actually be hung from the rainbow. There's a couple of stitched clouds and then some just smaller, this is a flower bouquet, and these are individual little flower blooms and a little heart, and just kind of a fun little die collection. And there are stencils included in the kit. It's a set of 3 stencils. There's this fun heart sunburst, which is a 1-step stencil, and then there is a 2-step rainbow stencil, and you can combine these 2 stencils to create a full rainbow. And these stencils coordinate with the pattern papers in the kit. You will receive some pre-printed designs so that you can go ahead and use those with the stencils to add some color. If you've used any of my ColourPop kits, the ColourPop butterflies or the ColourPop florals, this is the same kind of concept. The sunburst heart is just, like I said, a single step, so that will coordinate with the pattern paper so that you can add more color to that by sponging ink over the stencil. And then the rainbow stencil is, like I said, a 2-step stencil, and that coordinates with some of the pattern papers in the kit as well. So you can go ahead and create a whole full color rainbow, and it's really super easy. So I'll show you that in a little bit. I'll show you how that works. And there are a variety of papers in the kit. Here is one that I have already sponged with a bit of yellow ink. This is kind of a gray background. And then some of the pattern papers also incorporate some dots. And those are meant to, you can use them just as, they're just decorative on their own, or you can use them as a guide for adhering some of the iridescent clear sequins that are in the kit. I don't know about you, but sometimes I fiddle around forever and ever and ever just trying to get that right placement so it has that perfect scattered look. And so I decided to incorporate some just light colored dots on some of the pattern papers, and that can be your guide for adding the sequins. So it's super quick and easy, and you can just go ahead and add those and not mess around forever and ever like I do sometimes. Here's another example. There's some just light colored dots built in to the sunburst background, and so you can use those as a guide for your sequins. And then, of course, like my other kits, I also include some pre-printed cuttables that you can cut with the dies from the kit. And just like always, there's a light colored outline, and the die will just drop into that outline. You run it through your machine, and you have perfectly cut little pre-printed images that you can use on your projects. One more thing to mention, we are also offering a large rainbow die as a separate add-on purchase. Again, this is not included in the mini kit. We decided to make it a separate add-on just to keep the price of the mini kit a little more reasonable and give you the option to either add this in or do without. It's totally up to you. The kit is completely functional on its own without it. There's lots of fun things you can do without it, but the having this large rainbow die opens up even more layering options. So that's an optional purchase as well. And it also does coordinate with the 2-step rainbow stencil. So after you die cut the stencil, or die cut the rainbow, you can use the stencils to add color to that as well. So that's kind of fun. So now I want to go ahead and show you how fun it is to stencil these colorful rainbows. I'm going to do it on one of the pre-printed papers. This has the kind of a gray background with the full rainbow. Here's an example of one I have already finished. This is the gray background also, and all of this color was added using the stencils and some sponging of ink. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to pull out, I have a Cricut mat here. I like to use these adhesive mats when I'm stenciling because I can go ahead and put my pattern paper right on the mat, and it's sticky so it holds it in place while I'm sponging over it. And of course you can stencil this this rainbow on a panel of plain cardstock too. You don't have to do it on the pattern paper, but that's what we're going to do for this example, just so I can give you an idea of how this all works together. So all you have to do is line up the openings in the stencil with the white areas on the pattern paper. And I have a rainbow of inks here, and I'm going to start off with Raspberry Fizz, and I have just a little sponge handle here. This is a Ranger 1-inch sponging tool, and I'm going to start off with Raspberry Fizz, and the rows of the rainbow are far enough apart so that it is pretty simple, just to be a little careful that you don't get ink to these other areas since they are far enough apart. But if you are concerned about getting ink where you don't want it, just keep some sticky notes handy, and you can go ahead and just kind of do some really easy masking. But like I said, they're far enough apart that if you're kind of careful, you should be just fine. Okay, so this first stencil is every other color of the rainbow. So I did it that way so that it would be really easy for you to just be able to do the sponging without having to do a lot of masking. So we're going to skip, the next color would be orange, so we're going to skip that, and we're going to move on to yellow since that's the next opening in our stencil. And I have a different sponge for every color family. And I do find that I like the way my sponges work better when they are kind of broken in, when they're kind of dirty, really saturated with ink. And I think that makes the sponging a little bit easier. So this center stripe is probably the trickiest to make sure that you don't get ink onto the other areas. But if you just stay in the center, this sponge is 1 inch in diameter, so you can just kind of ride it along that open area there and you should be just fine. And I'm going for kind of an ombre look here. I want more concentrated color up here at the top of the rainbow, and I'm going to fade it out down to the bottom. Okay, so our next color in this stencil is going to be the blue. So I'm going to use some Blueberry Sky for this stripe. Okay, so we can go ahead and pull off our stencil, and we can see how we have a really good start to our rainbow. It's looking pretty cute. So we're going to pull out the other stencil then and do the same thing. Just line that up with the openings, or the white areas, I'm sorry, in the pattern paper. And I'm just going to go ahead and smooth that down around the edges so that it'll stick to my sticky mat. And then this time around, I am going to do, there are clouds on this stencil as well, and they aren't really meant to be done exactly where they are, if that makes sense. They're meant to be, they're incorporated into this stencil because I had room in this stencil, but I don't want to ink them up right now. So I'm going to just put a little post-it note over that top cloud there, and then I'm going to pull out my orange zest ink, because I just want to do this stripe. Okay, there's another cloud down here, and I don't want to hit that one right now either. I'm going to do that one later. This cloud down here coordinates with the cloud at the top of the rainbow, so that's kind of the third step. So we're going to do that later. So I'm going to grab my green sponge so we can add the green stripe to our rainbow. Okay, so that is the last step of the rainbow. We're going to get to pull this off now, and you can see how pretty and how fun is that. Okay, now I want to add a little bit of color to the clouds, and this cloud here in the lower right corner of the two-stripe rainbow stencil coordinates with the cloud at the top of the rainbow. So I'm just going to go ahead and shift that up to the top and line that up. And then this one is just an extra cloud. You can stencil that wherever you want. It doesn't really coordinate with anything necessarily. I'm going to pull out some aqua mist ink for the top of the cloud. And I'm just going to leave that bottom of the cloud a little bit lighter, just so I get kind of an ombre kind of effect on the cloud too. So that is it for the stenciling, and then we can go ahead and pull that off, and we have a really fun, colorful rainbow background paper. Okay, well, thanks for joining me today and letting me show you and tell you a little bit about the latest Make It Mark It mini kit called Sunshine and Rainbows. I hope you enjoyed this little peek, and we will see you online. Thanks for watching. This has been Betsy Veldman for Papertrey Inc.